problem. I was just saying that today, meat and due season. Today is the 49th Omer count. And we were going to go over what happened on Mount Sinai today and the couple days leading up to it. Because of course this is Shabbat prior to Shavuot tomorrow. And so, Linda, if you don't mind, I was thinking about we can start with Exodus 19. And it would be helpful if we had month three of y'all's calendar up on the screen so we can kind of count out the days and
Sure.
see where they were. It'll make it easier to for Exodus 19 to make sense.
Okay, just give me 1 second to pull it up. But you can get started and I'll pull it up as
Yeah.
I can get to it.
Yeah, no problem. And then we'll just, we'll take turns once we get into the law that was given on that day, reading through it. And we'll stop every few verses and discuss it. We just don't want to just read right through it, but if anybody's got questions or comments, so but go ahead and turn to Exodus 19. That's where we're going to start. All right, so here's the third month. And then, of course, you see Shavuot here, Omer 50, but today corresponds with we are on the 14th day of the third month of Yah's calendar, and this is the 11th Shabbat, right, of the year. And Abiyah is leaving service, and Yeshua is coming in for service today. So. All right. So let's just get going with Exodus 19. So in the third month after the children of Israel, this is Exodus 19, verse 1. In the third month after the children of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. Now, what confused me for a while on the same day, it doesn't mean on the same date. So they left, if we remember, right? They left on the 15th day of the first month, which is the first day of unleavened bread at evening. So on our previous videos, we proved that they left the day after Passover and they kept the first day of unleavened bread and they did not haul out until sundown or till the holy time was finished. And then that evening is when they moved out of Israel. So he's not saying on the 15th because obviously they're just pulling up to Sinai now. So what he means by the day they left on the fourth day of the week. Remember? So if we go back and look, you can just go back and look, the 15th day of the first month or unleavened bread is always on the fourth day of the week. Right. Just like the first day of the first month of the year is always on creation day, day four. And, Yahusha being that rod, he died on the fourth day of the week. So all that kind of ties together. So when it says that they came on the same day they left Egypt, they came to the wilderness of Sinai. So right there, it would be on the fourth day of the week, just before Shavuot. So they would have come at evening to set up camp on the fourth day of the week, which was the 11th day of the third month is at evening. So is everybody on that same page right now? So we'll keep reading and then it'll make full sense what we're talking about. Uh, Exodus 19, verse 2, for they had departed from Rephidim and had come to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. So that gives you the timestamp of evening. They set up camp and hunkered down for the night on the evening of the 11th day of the third month, which is the fourth day of the week. And Moses went up to Elohim. Now, the way I'm reading this is the next morning. He would not have crawled up the mountain during that night. And Moses went up to Elohim, and Yahusha called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So, right there, kings and priests.
Can
And
I?
we know, oh, yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so I just want to say that that date is 3/11/2410. This is in the first year of the Exodus, 2410 AM. And in BC terms, it would be 1590. And the priest who was in that
Christina,
week,
can't hear you.
sorry,
Are you talking? I think you're.
can you hear me?
Oh, am I frozen? Oh, great. Can,
So,
oh,
no, no worries, no worries. So in that week, um, Yehezekiel, number 20, is in, he is in service that week, which is kind of cool because when you think about it, I think about the book of Ezekiel. And
yeah,
then,
Yeah.
yeah, right. And then on the 15th, on the 14th and the 15th, um, 20 Ezekiel or Yehezekiel is replaced by number 21, who is Yakim, Yah will establish, or he will establish. He comes in on Shavuot, or actually comes in on that Shabbat on in the 11th week. So he replaces Yakim replaces Yehezekiel on the 11th Shabbat, or the 14th day of the third month. So there's just a little bit of information there for your priestly order, so
yeah.
you know where we're at.
He establishes his law, right? His covenant.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's beautiful. And again, what Christina just said applies to the actual day that Israel came to Sinai that year, which was 2410 a.m., which was, a long time ago. Not doing that math in my head. Okay. Okay, so that's when they came up to the camp. Now we're in the morning of day 12 or the fifth day of the week. So Yahusha, the Elohim of Israel, is giving Moses instruction. So now we're in verse 7. So Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before them all the words which Yahusha commanded him. Then all the people answered together and said, All that Yah has spoken we will do. So Moses brought back the words of the people to Yahusha. And Yahusha said to Moses, Behold, I come to you in the thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you and believe you forever. So Moses told the words of the people to Yahusha. Okay, now verse 10 gives you another time stamp. Then Yahusha said to Moses, Go to the people and consecrate them today, which would be the 12th, and tomorrow, which would be the 13th, and let them wash their clothes, and let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day Yahushua will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. So they needed to wash and prepare for the third day, which would be the Sabbath, prior to Shavuot or Pentecost. So, and they all needed to prepare. And then he said in verse 12, you shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, take heed to yourselves, you do not go up to the mountain or touch its base. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. Not a hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot with an arrow. Whether man or beast, he shall not live. So obviously Sinai, when Yahusha comes down upon it, is holy ground. And it made me think, of course, of Moses, take off your shoes, you're on holy ground, the burning bush. So when the trumpet sounds long, they shall come near the mountain. So this is all instructions from Yahusha to Moses. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people, sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. So this is still on day 12 right now. And he said to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not come near your wives. Then it came to pass. Okay, so I'll stop right there. And then verse 16, of course, is the day we're on right now, Shavuot. So, does anybody have any additional information, comments, or questions up to this point?
Today is not Shavuot, yo. It's the Sabbath before, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. I meant to say the Shabbat. Yeah, verse 16 starts Shabbat today. Did that make sense? So
Yes.
I was just stopping right before verse 16 because that starts what happened on this day way back in Moses's time. So does everybody understand when they rolled up to Sinai, they camped, Moses went to the mountain to get instructions from Yah, and he said, okay, today, meaning the 12th in the morning when Moses went up to get the instructions, he said, today and tomorrow the people will cleanse themselves, and on the third day, being the Sabbath prior to Pentecost, today, right, is when Yahushua would come and speak in their sight and hearing the covenant. Is everybody with us?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'll finish reading verse 19 and then we'll start alternating with some other folks reading it if that's good. Okay. So verse 16, now you can mark that in your scripture. That's Shabbat prior to Shavuot. And if you go to Jewish teachings, I think a lot of the Torah groups think that the law or the covenant was spoken on the day of Pentecost itself. But we're going to show you that is not true. Yahusha spoke the covenantal law on Shabbat, the day prior to Shavuot. And that's what we're going into right now. So we just kind of proved to you from the fourth day at evening when they arrived. And then the 12th and 13th, they cleansed themselves. And on the third day is when Yahusha said he would come down and speak with them. So that's where we are. Verse 16. Then it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunderings, lightnings, and a thick cloud on the mountain. And the sound of the trumpet was very loud, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with Elohim, which of course we know the Elohim of Israel is Yahusha. And they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was completely in smoke because Yahusha descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. And when the blast of the trumpet sounded long and became louder and louder, Moses spoke, and Elohim answered him by voice. Then Yahushua came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and Yahushua called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. And Yahushua said to Moses, "Go down and warn the people, lest they break through to gaze at Yahushua, and many of them perish. Also, let the priests who come near Yahushua consecrate themselves, lest I break out against them." But Moses said to Yahushua, "The people cannot come up to the Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, 'Set bounds around the mountain and consecrate it.'" Then Yahushua said to him, "Away, get down, and then come up, you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priest and the people break through to come up to Elohim, lest he break out against them." So Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. And Elohim, Yahushua, spoke all these words, saying, okay, so who wants to start reading here? And these, of course, he starts out with the Ten Commandments.
I'll be happy to read. How far do you want me to go?
Um, let's just
Read the chapter and then discuss
yeah, I
it.
think so. And then we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You did not make for yourselves a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children of the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands, to those who love me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahuwah your Elohim to naught, for Yahuwah does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahuwah your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahuwah blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, you do not steal, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor. You do not covet your neighbor's house, you do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. And all the people saw the thunders, the lightning flashes, the voice of the shofar, and the mountain smoking. And the people saw it, and they trembled and stood at a distance, and said to Moshe, You speak with us, and we hear, but let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die. And Moshe said to the people, Do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, and in order that his fear be before you, so that you do not sin. So the people stood at a distance, but Moshe drew near the thick darkness where Elohim was. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Say this to the children of Israel, You yourselves have seen that I have spoken to you from the heavens. Do not make besides me mighty ones of silver, and you do not make mighty ones of gold for yourselves. Make a slaughter place of earth for me, and you shall slaughter on it your ascending offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and your cattle. In every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I shall come to you and bless you. And if you make me a slaughter place of stone, do not build it of cut stone, for if you use your chisel on it, you have profaned it. Nor do you go up by steps to my slaughter place, lest your nakedness be exposed on it.
Okay, and before we start discussing this, I just so other folks that may listen to this. So there's a lot of folks that believe that the Elohim of the Old Testament's the Father. And I want to, so everybody here heard the voice of Elohim, right? So let's go to John 5, verse 37. So I just want to, and we can prove it many other ways, but the Elohim of the Old Testament, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Noah, Moses, etc., was the Son of Man, Yahusha. So if you read John 5:37, so this is Yahusha speaking to his disciples. And he says, and the Father himself who sent me has testified of me. You have neither heard his voice at any time nor seen his form. So I just wanted to, when you put all the scriptures together on a subject, Yahweh has never spoken to anyone.
And isn't there also a scripture, I can't remember where it absolutely does implicate Yahusha as the Elohim of Israel?
Yeah. Yes.
And
That
I can't
rock.
remember where that is.
Yeah.
And
Hang on.
Elohim is a dual word. It means more than one. And there's another, yeah.
Yes. Yes. And it goes back to John 1:1. The word, you know, the word was with the Father. The word was with Elohim and was Elohim. So there's two beings right there. But yeah, okay. So if you go to First Corinthians 10, that starts to speak of it. So First Corinthians 10, we'll start in verse 1. And of course, this is Paul speaking. Moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware that all our fathers were under the cloud, all passed through the sea, meaning the Red Sea, the sea crossing. All were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. All ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Yahusha. So, but most of them Elohim was not well pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. So, and also there's evidence, if you go to Deuteronomy 32:8, and we've discussed this before. If you go to Deuteronomy 32, verse 8, in the Septuagint is the correct rendering. But it says, when the Most High, meaning the Father, divided their inheritance to the nations, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the people according to the number of the sons of Elohim, meaning angels. For Yahusha's, for his portion, Yahusha is his people, and Jacob is the place of his inheritance. Meaning he set his son, Yahusha, over Israel. The Elohim of Israel was Yahusha, but all other nations had an angel over it. So it's pretty clear that the Elohim of the Old Testament, the Elohim of Israel, was none other than Yahusha.
Yahusha. Yep.
Just putting all the scriptures together. And I wanted to kind of get that out there before we got any further, because I know there's a lot of confusion about out there. There's a lot of folks that think Yahweh and Yahusha are the same being. You still have Trinitarian believers. There's all sorts of things, but again, I would point back to John 1:1, which clearly states there are two Elohims in the beginning. And let me just read that real fast while we're on the subject. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was in the beginning with Elohim, and all things were made through him, meaning Yahusha, the son of Elohim, of course. And without him, nothing was made that was made. In him, the Word, or Yahusha, was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. And there was a man sent from Elohim whose name was John, and this in this case is John the Baptist. And this man came for a witness to bear witness of the light, Yahusha, that all through him might believe. He, John, was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. So, verse 10, he was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. So, let's just state it what it means here. Verse 10, he, Yahusha, was in the world. He came in the flesh, and the world was made through Yahusha, and the world did not know Yahusha. And he came to his own, Israel, and his own did not receive him. So, and it goes on from there. But again, proving that from the beginning there were two beings that were Elohim, the Father and the Son.
So, okay, I wanted to give another verse to help give some clarity to this. And I'm tempted to read the entire chapter 15 of Jubilees, but if we don't have time to do that, we're trying to
No,
get.
I think we do. Let's do
Okay.
it. Let's
Okay.
do
All
it.
right. I'll read it. And if there's, there are a lot of things. I'm just skimming through it. I'm trying to get to verse 32. But in the meantime, if you hear anything, stop me and be like, okay, here we go. Right. Well, first of all, this is Shavuot, what we're talking about here. This is the promise of Isaac and the law, the feast of first fruits, circumcision instituted, the promise of Isaac's birth, circumcision ordained for all of Israel. Okay. So Jubilees 15, starting in 1. And in the 5th year of the 4th week in this Jubilee, in the 3rd month, in the middle of the month, Abram celebrated the feast of first fruits in the grain harvest, and he offered new offerings on the altar, the first fruits of produce unto Yahweh, a heifer, a goat, and a sheep on the altar as a burnt sacrifice unto Yahweh. Their first fruit offerings and their drink offering he offered upon the altar with frankincense. And Yahweh appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am Elohim Almighty, approve thyself before me, and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between.
Hold it right there, Linda, just to stop confusion. So in verse 3, that would be Yahusha.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Thank you for stopping me. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted. 'Cause I'll just
Yeah. I mean,
plow
we
through.
are we kind of use Yahweh and Yahusha interchangeably, but if he appeared to him, it would have been Yahusha.
Right. Okay. I said to him, I am Elohim Almighty, approve thyself before me and be thou perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and Elohim talked with him and said, Elohim again, Yahusha, behold, my ordinance is with thee, and thou wilt be the father of many nations. Neither will thy name be any more called Abram, but thy name from henceforth ever forever, even forever, shall be Abraham. For the father of many nations have I made thee, and I shall make thee very great, and I shall make thee into nations, and kings will come forth from thee. And I shall establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee throughout their generations for an eternal covenant, so that I may be an Elohim unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. And I shall give to thee and to thy seed after thee the land where thou hast been a sojourner, the land of Canaan, that thou may possess it forever, and I shall be their Elohim. And Yahuwah said unto me, unto Abraham, Yahusha said unto Abraham, and as for thee, do thou keep my covenant, thou and thy seed after thee, and circumcise ye every male among you, and circumcise your foreskin, and it will be a token of an eternal covenant between me and you. And the children of on the 8th day, ye shall ye will circumcise every male throughout your generations, him that is born in your house, or whom you have bought with money from any stranger whom you have acquired, who is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house will surely be circumcised, and those whom thou hast bought with money will be circumcised, and my covenant will be in your flesh for an eternal ordinance. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul will be cut off from his people, for he hath broken my covenant. And Elohim said unto Abraham, as for Sarah thy wife, her name will no more be called Sarah, but Sarah will be her name. And I shall bless her and give thee a son by her, and I shall bless him, and he will become a nation, and kings of nations will proceed from him. And Abraham fell on his face and rejoiced, and said in his heart, shall a son be born to him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bring forth? And Abraham said unto Elohim, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And Elohim said, yea, and Sarah also will bear thee a son, and thou wilt call his name Isaac. And I shall establish my covenant with him, an everlasting covenant, and his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, also have I heard thee, and behold, I shall bless him and make him great, and multiply him exceedingly, and he will beget 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. But my covenant shall I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to thee in these days, in the next year. And he left off speaking with him, and Elohim went up from Abraham, and Abraham did according as Elohim had said unto him, and he took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, in whom he had bought with his money, every male in his house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin. And on the self same day, 3:15, was Abraham circumcised, and all the men of his house, and those born in the house, and all those whom he had bought with money from the children of the strangers were circumcised with him. This law is for all the generations forever, and there is no circumcision of the days, and no omission of one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance ordained and written on the heavenly tables. And every one that is born, the flesh of whose foreskin is not circumcised on the 8th day, belong not to the children of the covenant which Yahweh made with Abraham, but to the children of destruction, nor is there moreover any sign on him that he is Yahweh's, but he is destined to be destroyed and slain from the earth, and to be rooted out of all the earth, for he has broken the covenant of Yahweh our Elohim. For all the angels of the presence and all the angels of sanctification have been so created from the day of their creation, and before the angels of the presence and the angels of sanctification, he has sanctified Israel, and they should be with him and with his holy angels. And do thou command the children of Israel, and let them observe the sign of this covenant for their generations as an eternal ordinance, and they will not be rooted out of the land. For the command is ordained for a covenant, that they should observe it forever among the children of Israel. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers, and Esau, Yahweh did not cause to approach him. And he chose them not because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them, but he chose Israel to be his people. And he sanctified it and gathered it from amongst all the children of men, for there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his. And over all hath he placed spirits of authority to lead them astray from him. But over Israel he did not appoint any angel or spirit, for he alone is their ruler. There it is right there. You want to circle that. Yahusha. And he will preserve them and require them at the hand of his angels and his spirits and at the hand of all his powers, in order that he may preserve them and bless them, and that they may be his and he may be theirs from henceforth forever. And now I announce unto thee that the children of Israel will not keep true to his ordinance, and they will not circumcise their sons according to all this law. For in the flesh of their circumcision, they will omit this circumcision of their sons, and all of them, sons of Belial, will leave their sons uncircumcised as they were born. And there will be great wrath from Yahweh against the children of Israel, because they have forsaken his covenant, and turned aside from his word, and provoked and blasphemed, inasmuch as they do not observe the ordinance of this law. For they have treated their members like the Gentiles, so they may be removed and rooted out of the land, and there will be no more pardon or forgiveness unto them, so that there should be forgiveness and pardon for all the sin of this eternal error.
Um, I would like to add Enoch, chapter 62, verse 7. Actually, I'm going to back up 6 and let's go 6 through 8. So Enoch, chapter 62, verses 6 through 8. And the kings and the mighty and all who possess the earth shall bless and glorify and extol him who rules over all, who was hidden. For from the beginning the Son of Man was hidden, and the Most High preserved him in the presence of his might, and revealed him to the elect. And the congregation of the elect and holy shall be sown, and all the elect shall stand before him on that day.
I was just gonna tie all this, Christina, like what you just read back there. So the children of Israel had this covenant opportunity with Yah, but he knew from the beginning that they would not succeed. They would break the covenant. And then he offered to them, if you go back to Exodus 19, verses 5 and 6, it says, Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So, but the Father and the Son knew they wouldn't succeed. But then this gives birth, so to speak, to spiritual Israel, which is the elect, which is the bride. And we know from Revelation 20 that she becomes the kings and priest to Yah forevermore, right? The kingdom of priests, meaning kings and priests forevermore. So the circumcision goes from a physical sign to the circumcision of the heart, right? Which is a sign of spiritual Israel, the elect. But that covenant, the basis of the covenant never changes. The covenant ancient Israel or physical Israel entered into is the same covenant spiritual Israel or the bride enters into. And that's why we wanted to reread that today when it was initially given. And that is why the 50th day Pentecost, meaning Shavuot, which is tomorrow, right? That is actually the blood covenant day. And that's the circumcision day, which interestingly enough, today is the seventh day. Tomorrow, being Shavuot, the blood covenant, is also day 8, or back to the first day of the week, right? But do you see how it's the eighth day
Mitzi,
pointing? Yeah.
uh, before I forget, could you please give that last scripture that you read?
Yeah, Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 and 6.
Thank you.
This, yeah. So, and then anything else before we get back to reading the covenant? So, and Linda, you do a good job of explaining this, how yes, the covenant that he gives on this day is the covenant, but everything Yah gave prior to this, including the knowledge of clean and unclean foods, are included in this,
Yeah.
but they already knew about that,
Right. It's
right?
kind of like common sense to them who have been practicing this. Yeah.
Right. And I did want to, before we moved on, I did want to make the remark that in this, it does, so he does talk about the priest, in Exodus 19 through 24. And we will, and then after the reading of the Ten Commandments in verse 24, Exodus 20, verse 24, he does talk about an altar and making sacrifices, and he talks about the burnt offerings and the peace offerings. Now, from Adam on, the fathers have had altars, and they have sacrificed burnt offerings for Yah and peace offerings. But notice there's no mention of trespass offerings or sin offerings, and they're not commanded. They just gave it of their free will, right? And then we'll get to it also, but all of the children of Israel had priests. It wasn't just specifically the Levites yet. That part was not added until their sin came in. So we're not saying that sacrifices weren't going on at all, right? We're just saying there was a difference of what was commanded, and that was added due to their sin. And we'll get into that later.
I think what's interesting here too is that when we look at Ezekiel, these are the same sacrifices because Yahusha will be ruling in the millennial reign.
Absolutely. But in the millennial reign, the sin offerings and the trespass offerings will be coming back.
Gotcha.
So that is the difference. So, and it is as a teaching tool, completely different as to why it came in this time. It was never his intention for them to have to have sin and trespass offerings, but because of their sin, he enforced it on them. But I just wanted to show that yes, we do realize that the burnt offerings and the peace offering. So the burnt was wholly burned to Yah for his pleasure, and then the peace offerings were for their enjoyment, right, and celebration. But there were no sin offerings, no trespass offerings at this time. Just wanted to make that point before we move on. Anything else? Okay. So that was the commandments, the Ten Commandments. I think we're all pretty, um, you know, good with that. And again, I will emphasize, the fourth commandment, of course, is the Sabbath. And the Sabbath is clearly the seventh day, so folks have to go through and prove out. There's a huge difference between Yah's seventh day and the world's seventh day. You can't just pick a seventh day willy-nilly on any calendar and call it a day. So, but we have other videos that dig into that. All right. So, and then sorry.
I was just going to say, can I ask a question before we moved on?
Sure.
In chapter 20, 26, where it says, "Thou shalt not go up to my altar by the steps, that thou mayest not uncover thy nakedness upon it." Do you know what that means?
Yeah,
Pretty
they
much.
made, go ahead, Christina.
If you read about the garments of what the priests wore, they wore breeches. Um, they wore breeches to cover their nakedness.
Yeah. They
So,
had specially made underwear so they could go up the altar and not expose themselves.
But I think also Yah's instructions included a ramp and there are no steps leading up to the altar.
right. And that's why uh, it says that a chisel his, um, it profanes his altar. So we see that in verse 25. And if you make me a slaughter place of stone, do not build it of cut stone, for if you use your chisel on it, you have profaned it. And this is something that the heathen would do for their altars. They would build steps going up. Um, so which is kind of interesting because this kind of reminds me of the Masonic temples where they have steps going up to the altar or benches going up to the altar. And I saw that in the Mormon temple.
Or like ziggurats and stuff like that. They are also like steps
Step.
up.
An altar.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw that in the Masonic lodges we were meeting in before I had a clue. So, but yeah, usually if you go upstairs, it's not just Yah, but other people can see up your skirt too, is the point. So,
Yep.
I was thinking that, but I wasn't sure.
okay. So chapter 21 starts the judgments. So you have the commandments, judgments, and statutes. So anybody that wants to read chapter 21? I'll read through it and then we'll move on. Okay. So now these are the judgments which you shall set before them. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve 6 years, and then the seventh he shall go out free and pay nothing. If he comes in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master has given him a wife, and she has borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. But if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the door or to the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. And if a man sells his daughter to be a female slave, she shall not go out as male slaves do. If she does not please her master who has betrothed her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has dealt deceitfully with her. And if he has betrothed her to his son, he shall deal with her according to the custom of daughters. If he takes another wife, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, and her marriage rights. And if he does not do these three for her, then she shall go out free without paying money. Verse 12, he who strikes a man so that he dies shall surely be put to death. However, if he did not lie in wait, but Elohim delivered him into his hand, then I will appoint for you a place where he may flee. But if a man acts with premeditation against his neighbor to kill him by treachery, you shall take him from my altar that he may die. and he who strikes his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. He who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his hand, surely he shall surely be put to death. And he who curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. If men contend with each other, and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die but is confined to his bed, if he rises again and walks about outside with his staff, then he who struck him shall be acquitted. He shall only pay for the loss of his time, and shall provide for him to be thoroughly healed. And if a man beats his male or female servant with a rod so that he dies under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he remains alive a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his property. Verse 22, if men fight and hurt a woman with child so that she gives birth prematurely, yet no harm follows, he shall surely be punished accordingly as the woman's husband imposes on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if any harm follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. If a man strikes the eye of his male or female servant and destroys it, he shall let him go free for the sake of his eye. And if he knocks out the tooth of his male or female servant, he shall let him go free for the sake of his tooth. If an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox shall surely be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be acquitted. But if the ox tended to thrust with his horn in times past, and it has been made known to his owner, and he has not kept it confined so that it has killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner shall also be put to death. If there is imposed on him a sum of money, then he shall pay to redeem his life whatever is imposed on him. Whether it has gored a son or gored a daughter, according to this judgment it shall be done to him. Verse 32. If the ox gores a male or female servant, he shall give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. And if a man opens a pit, or a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or donkey falls in it, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and he shall give money to their owner, but the dead animal shall be his. If one man's ox hurts another so that it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the money from it, and the dead ox they shall also divide. Or if it was known that the ox tended to thresh in times past, and its owner has not kept it confined, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead animal shall be his own. So, a lot of information there. I did kind of find it interesting that a male or female or servant that was beaten to death, it says the owner shall be punished, but not necessarily his life taken.
It would seem to me that whatever it was that this servant had done, it must have been worthy of death to receive such a severe beating.
Right, because Yah is not for killing people unless, like you say, they've broken some severe laws. And even then, they would have handled it correctly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then 21:11, mine says, if he does not do these three for her, meaning that if he took another wife and the former wife, he doesn't
Provide
treat
for.
her, yeah, then she goes out for naught without silver. And the way that it's worded in my scriptures makes no sense. She goes out for naught without
Free.
silver. She goes
Mine,
out.
mine says she can go out free without paying money. I kind of wonder if that's like a slave wife different from a wife wife. Like, for instance, Leah and Rachel, their handmaids were considered his wife also, but it wasn't his wife, so to speak.
Right,
Do you,
like Hagar and
right,
Abraham.
exactly.
Mine
Because,
says, mine says, if he fails her in these three ways, she shall go free without payment.
yeah, because the whole context is Hebrew servants.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if, because the normal, you have to give her a certificate of divorce, right, and all that. But these are your Hagar types. That was my understanding.
It's
But
almost like a concubine,
Yeah.
right?
right, right, right,
Yeah, he wasn't officially married to her. It's almost like his master had given him a wife, right?
right. Kind of like Bilhah and I
Hmm.
forget her the other
Zilpah.
one. Yes, yeah, Jacob's. They weren't. They didn't rise to the level of Leah and Rachel, but they were by law considered right his
Right.
wife.
When they gave their handmaids to him to have children for them by him.
Right.
So that
And,
would,
and
yeah,
yeah, sorry. And I was just gonna say, yes, it's not Yah's ultimate. His his best is you have one wife, right? There's no doubt about that. But he made these judgments knowing what they were gonna do. Unfortunately, he knows the mess we're gonna get into.
right. And then 16, and he who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his hand, shall certainly be put to death. And this just takes me back to Joseph when his brothers took him and sold him. It's the same thing as kidnapping him.
Well, and if Yah's law was performed to this day, there wouldn't be child trafficking now, would there?
Oh, no,
They
there
would
wouldn't
be put
be.
to death.
Government would be gone.
Yeah, our entire government would be gone. That's what
Well,
true
they will be
statement.
soon.
Yes. Yeah. And then I thought verse 32 is neat. He shall give, so if an ox gores a male or a female slave, he shall give their honor or master 30 shekels of silver, the price of a slave. And of course, we know that's what Yahusha was, Judas took for the price of betraying Yahusha, 30 pieces of silver.
Which is kind of funny because that's also the price of a woman.
Yeah.
What does anybody have the scripture for where the price of the woman is 30 pieces of 30 shekels of silver?
I think that is, let me check real quick because I think it's in Deuteronomy. I need to go somewhere first to see it because I know I wrote that in here. Let's look at Deuteronomy 19:21. Look it up real quick and see if that's right.
Got Leviticus 27:4.
What is it, Kimberly?
Leviticus 27:4. Hold on.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Exodus 21:24. Yep. Thank you.
Leviticus, was it Leviticus?
Leviticus
27.
27:4.
Okay.
It just says 30 shekels. Are we supposed to just
Yeah. Yeah.
silver?
Yes.
Silver is what a shekel is.
Oh yeah. It wouldn't be gold. Yeah.
Could it be a different, like cheaper metal or no?
No, it would be silver.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Just want to make sure.
uh, could you give that one more time? The
Leviticus, are
Sorry.
you the address?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Leviticus 27:4.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on chapter 21 before we get going? I know a lot of this provides folks with heartburn about the slaves and all this stuff, but it's also a way for folks to work off debt. If you remember Jacob and Laban, right? The bride price for Rachel, 7 years, right, of labor for him. And of course he did the switcheroo on him, but it's slavery, I think our mindset of slavery and the Hebrew work system, you know, it's not exactly slavery like we're thinking. They're not treated bad or anything like that.
And I think, in my thinking, when they talk about the nations becoming a slave, they're the ones I think that are um, probably they're worked a little harder, I would say, than his brother. He doesn't treat his brother like a slave because there seems to be a difference there um, between a brother working for you to work off a debt as opposed to a slave who is working for you. There isn't like a contract.
Right. And even when it's the nations, there's a reason they're a slave for you. It's either they made
Spoils of
peace
war.
during war, right. It's not just that Israel can run around and make anybody their slave, right? There's a reason behind it.
I guess when you kind of think about it, um, I kind of equate it, and it's probably a really bad way to equate it, but it's like us getting up and going to work every day.
No,
That's what I was thinking.
that's exactly what I
Yeah.
think it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
and we're enslaved in more ways than one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Not
Right.
only
Yeah.
for our financial survival, but our medical, our education, everything is an enslavement. And we're not beaten
Yes.
every day. Well, kind of we're beaten down, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But it is. And another way, so there are scriptures. I'm not going to look for them right now because the task at hand, but there are scriptures that state that the Israelites in the millennial reign will have some slaves of the nations. But it's pretty clear that these will have been people who did them wrong and later repented. So Yah put them in positions of slavery to Israel for their sins, basically, and how they had treated them in times past. So not that just willy-nilly Yah lets them take slaves of the nations. That's not what that means. But there's
If it
reasons behind it, righteous reasons,
and
that
if
they're
any
paying off debts.
right, and if anything, the rotten person who actually becomes a slave considers himself lucky to be
Blessed.
alive
Yes,
and yeah, blessed and to be serving them rather than being put to death for what they've done.
right, exactly. So I just wanted to folks to kind of understand Yah's purposes here. It's not how we've been brainwashed to believe of slavery. I'm just going to take you and make you a slave kind of thing. So that's not Yah's way.
So wait, real quick, is the word slave the word slave's not used, right?
No, these are servants.
Servants, right?
Yeah.
So the one example that I was going to share, well, it's do you think there's a difference between a servant and a hired servant? Or do you think it's the same thing?
I think one of them, okay, one of them, uh, he, uh, well, pays a debt, right? And the other one is just hired on to work for him, kind of like what you do to earn a living, right? The other one, he's there serving to pay off the debt, right? And then at the end of the every seventh year, they let them go free, whether they still owe him another year's worth of work or whatever, that debt is forgiven. And then he goes forward. But somebody who is hired continually works for him until he's fired, right? That's kind of how I see the difference between the two. One is hired to work on somebody else's land, and the other guy is working off a debt.
Or if they've just been uh slothful and stupid and ended up like the prodigal son with no money and no way of taking care of himself.
That's where I was trying to go,
Yeah.
but as I
Okay.
looked that up, the only the only time hired servant is used in scripture is in Luke 15, which is that prodigal son's um parable. And that's what I was thinking. He's like working for someone else, but he can't afford to eat even food. Like he can't afford to buy like the food the pigs are eating better than he is. And he is thinking his father, being like a righteous man, was like providing in a way that the Hebrews were taught to. Like you know what I mean, paying them a good wage that he says that they even have like leftover food and stuff like he's like, I'm gonna go back and work for my father. I'll ask him because he pays better than whoever he was ended up working for. Um, that was gonna be the example that I was gonna give. That's all I was gonna say.
So then we've got indebted servants for hire servants and for survival.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, when you consider that some of these landowners um, would need to hire outside. I mean, not everybody is going to be uber rich or anything, but
Yeah,
he'll,
Boaz
yeah,
had many servants and he treated them very well.
yeah.
Yeah, so I do look at it like uh business owners and hiring help. It is interesting that verse 7 does use the term slave. I didn't look if it's in the original Hebrew, but it says if a man sells his daughter to be a female slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do.
I think
Just
What verse is that? Because the King James
New
only
King.
uses slave once in scripture, and it's in Jeremiah.
Okay. It's
But
the New
servant,
King James.
yeah.
Yeah, the LXX says here, and if anyone sells his daughter as a domestic, she shall not depart as the maid ser or yeah, as the maid servants depart. Okay, now I'm kind of confused. And if anyone sells his daughter as a domestic, so she's a domestic servant,
Servant. Yeah.
she shall not depart as the maid servants depart. Okay, I'm not getting that.
Where
Mine
are
says
you?
male.
I'm in the LXX,
What verse though?
verse
So
7.
21:7.
And if anyone sell his daughter as a domestic, she shall not depart as the maidservants depart. Oh, what's the difference between a maidservant and a domestic?
So mine in the King James says, and if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do.
Yeah, mine says that too.
Yeah,
But
Mine too.
that would make more sense because the men have the advantage over the woman, right? Uh, uh, with uh with work, right?
Well, you look at chapter or verse 8, and I think it pretty much explains the
Yeah.
difference.
And if she is not pleasing to her master after she has betrothed herself to him, he shall let her go free. But he is not at liberty to sell her to a foreign nation because he trifled with her. So, so basically, she was sold to her master as a wife.
Or is just the servant, maybe, but he could do what maybe he could do what he wants with her. I don't know. Like it's kind of like he buys her and
Kind of
he
like a
uses her for whatever he
concubine.
wants.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
uses her as a concubine. Oh, I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, but
No.
yeah, once he pays for her, once he pays the father, he does not, he can either keep her or he can let her go. He doesn't need to give her like alimony or what, he doesn't need to provide for her anything. He paid for her and now she can go find herself a new person to hire her if I guess that's
Or
all.
or my thought is that, after somebody is married, and they can't have children or are barren or something, and somebody becomes a maidservant, it might be their duty to, because they were supposed to, you know, um, get married and populate the earth. So it could be to, do something like that. I don't know, so that their family could have child, maybe a maidservant.
But it says here at the end, though, because he has deceived her
Well,
or trifled with her.
yeah, that's trifling. Who knows? Because
Yeah.
their laws and customs back then is a lot different than it is now. And then you think about, in those days, because um, there's and that could be why, there was not just more than one wife, or not even, there was a lot of women that could have been barren, or there was some that was in the scriptures that says that, if your husband dies, then wouldn't it be that his wife would have to go with his brother or something like
Yeah,
that?
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, see, so and to stay in the family.
yeah. Because the land stays within the family. If you
Right.
look at the context, though, verses 7 through 11 go together. So it is talking about concubines.
Yep.
Yeah. And they could just be another word for a concubine, a
Yeah.
maidservant, in a way, because it serves, um, instead of the woman, in a way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Hagar was a maidservant, exactly, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And Leah and Rachel's
Right.
handmaids. Yep.
Right.
And
Right.
and now thinking about Hagar, she went without silver. She just went with bread and water.
Yes. I mean, she may have not even asked to be in this situation.
Oh, I don't think she did.
Mm.
Right. I mean, imagine the women not just her, but there could have been a lot of women that felt like a Hagar in those days, you know? So, anyways, that was just my thought. I thought I'd share.
And she
So
was
it's
Egyptian too. Hagar was an Egyptian, right?
Yes. Yes, I think you're right. Um, I think that's correct.
yeah, Genesis 16:1. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bare to him no children. She had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar.
Right.
That's the second use of the Hebrew word 8198 sifa.
Yeah, handmaid or maidservant or like a concubine.
Yep. She's
Hmm.
at your service, whatever you need her to do.
Right.
Bones for you. Yeah.
Uh, well, now it kind of reminds me of Yahusha because he's got many brides. He's got 144,000 of them.
Yeah, but they're all full force wives. We're not talking.
She wouldn't even let me bring a girlfriend to her wedding. Can you believe that?
Okay.
Now,
All
now
right.
is the bride 144 or 288?
144.
144,000, period. Not
Okay,
one more or one less. Revelation 14.
because I was thinking there was 144 of each, but okay.
Bride. That's it. Now there's 144,000 physical Israelites, but they are not bride. Anyway, there's another teaching on that. We won't get in there, but there's 144,000, period. Yeah. Okay. Chapter 22. Somebody want to read that? More judgments.
I
I can
don't
read
care.
it. Oh, did you want to read it?
Who, me?
Yeah, were you volunteering, Heather?
Yeah. Do you want
Okay,
me to
great. Go
hold
for it.
chapter? Okay. If the thief is seized while tunneling and he is beaten to death, there is no blood guilt in his case. If the sun has risen on him, there is blood guilt in that case. He must make restitution. If he lacks that means, he shall be sold for his theft. But if what he stole, whether ox or ass or sheep, is found alive in his possession, he shall pay double. When a man lets his livestock loose to graze in another's land and so allows a field or a vineyard to be grazed bare, he must make restitution for the impairment of that field or vineyard. When a fire is started and spreads to thorns, so that stacked, standing, or growing grain is consumed, he who started the fire must make restitution. When a man gives money or goods to another for safekeeping, and they are stolen from the man's house, if the thief is caught, he shall pay double. If the thief is not caught, the owner of the house shall depose before God or Yah that he has not laid hands on the other's property. And all charges of misappropriation pertaining to an ox, an ass, a sheep, a garment, or any other loss whereof one party alleges. This is it. The case of both parties shall come before Yah. He whom Yah declares guilty shall pay double to the other. When a man gives to another an ass, an ox, a sheep, or any other animal to guard, and it dies, or is injured, or is carried off with no witness about, an oath before Elohim shall decide between the two of them that the one has not laid hands on the property of the other. The owner must acquiesce, and no restitution shall be made. But if the animal was stolen from him, he shall make restitution to its owner. If it was torn by beast, he shall bring it as evidence. He need not replace what has been torn by beasts. When a man borrows an animal from another and it dies or is injured, its owner not being with it, he must make restitution. If its owner was with it, no restitution need to be made. But if it was hired, he is entitled to the hire. If a man seduces a virgin for whom the bride price has not been paid and lies with her, he must make her his wife by payment of a bride price. If her father refuses to give her to him, he must still weigh out silver in accordance with the bride price for virgins. You shall not tolerate a sorceress. Whoever lies with the beast shall be put to death. Whoever sacrifices to a god other than the Yahweh alone shall be proscribed. You shall not wrong a stranger or oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall not ill treat any widow or orphan. If you do mistreat them, I will heed their outcry as soon as they cry out to me. And my anger shall blaze forth, and I will put you to the sword, and your own wives shall become widows, and your children orphans. If you lend money to my people, to the poor among you, do not act toward them as a creditor. Exact no interest from them. If you take your neighbor's garment in pledge, you must return it to him before the sun sets. It is his only clothing, the sole covering for his skin. And what else shall he sleep? Therefore, if he cries out to me, I will pay heed, for I am compassionate. You shall not revile Elohim, nor put a curse upon a chieftain among your people. You shall not put off the skimming of the first yield of your vats. You shall give me the firstborn among your sons. You shall do the same with your cattle and your flocks. 7 days it shall remain with its mother. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. You shall be holy people to me. You must not eat flesh torn by beasts in the field. You shall cast it to the dogs. Hello?
Thank you.
We're here. So I think, this makes good common sense, all this. And I think it makes it clear, too, why chapter 21 has to be there. If you notice, there's a lot of restoration double. And if you notice, especially verse 6, if someone causes fire to break out and catches stacked grain or standing grain or in the field, you could imagine how that would add up where somebody would have no hopes of restitution, right? So that's how they end up being servants, paying off debt. So just because folks are in the millennial reign don't mean that stupid maneuvers will continue, right? And I doubt there's going to be your State Farm insurance agency there. So they're gonna be stuck. And that's how people earn too, right? If you have to work 7 years to, or ever how long, to restore that person's financial loss you caused, I guarantee you they won't be making that mistake again.
Oh, be extra careful.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, the one verse in here that is most interesting to me is do not revile in Elohim. And this is in verse 28. This made me think about the bride who is going to oversee in the spiritual realm the nations, right? The 144,000. The people are not going to be allowed to say anything derogatory about the bride, the Elohim. You don't revile them. Now, when you look at it today, right? I had heard that reviling an Elohim is you don't revile another nation's God. And I always wondered what that meant, you know. Um, and what made sense to me is that if you were to go out and knock another nation's little g God to the ground and break it, you basically start in war with that nation. Um, which is this in this realm where we're at right now. You don't go and revile another nation's God. But now looking at it and knowing that the bride is going to be overseeing um, the nations around the world, um, the people will not be allowed to say anything against this Elohim because this Elohim is working under the observation of Yahusha, who's under Yah. And it just got me to thinking about that um, when it was read. And you don't curse a ruler of your people. So I'm sure there'll be leaders within these nations as well. And we're not supposed to do that right now, even with unlikable people leading the nations right now. We're not allowed to do that because they've been anointed by Yah to do what they're going to do, what they've agreed to do. Yah's using them.
Verse 30 was important to me. It says, even when you take the first of the flock, it says, it shall be with its mother 7 days. On the eighth day, you shall give it to me. And it's interesting because the males are circumcised on the eighth day. And that, as we just saw with Linda in Jubilees, it points to tomorrow, Shavuot, the circumcision of the heart. And it also points to the eighth day in Yah's plan when the first 7 days is with his mother. And if Paul talks about this, Zion is the mother, right? And all of us are all except the bride, of course, the second fruits, the second resurrection fruits will enter the kingdom on that great eighth day, right? Pointing to the new heavens and the new earth when the new Jerusalem comes down. All are Yah's possession on that great eighth day. So I think that's neat how everything points to what Yah's ultimately doing. All right. Anything else before we move on to chapter 23?
Yeah, I was thinking too, how the eighth day pictures the Pentecost is basically the promise of the future eighth day, the future 50th day Jubilee, when we're all set free. And I was thinking too that maybe the we can't even really keep a Jubilee nowadays. I mean, the Israelites were taken captive um, after King David. So it's like really no one, everybody's slaves now. So I was just thinking that.
We'll definitely be keeping it in the millennial reign, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, especially since we know when it is. So that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Anybody want to read chapter 23?
I'll be happy to read it. Okay, 23, verse 1. Do not bring a false report. Do not put your hand with the wrong to be a malicious witness. Do not follow a crowd to do evil, nor bear witness in a strife so as to turn aside after many, to turn aside what is right. And do not favor a poor man in his strife. When you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall certainly return it to him. When you see the donkey of him who hates you lying under its burden, you shall refrain from leaving it to him. You shall certainly help him. Do not turn aside the right ruling of your poor in his strife. Keep yourself far from a false matter, and do not kill an innocent and the righteous, for I do not declare the wrong right. And do not take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the seeing one and twists the words of the righteous. And do not oppress a sojourner, as you yourselves know the heart of a sojourner, because you are sojourners in the land of Mitzrayim. And for 6 years you are to sow your land, and shall gather its increase. But the 7th year you are to let it rest, and shall leave it, and the poor of your people shall eat. And what they leave, the beasts of the field eat. Do the same with your vineyard and your olive yard. 6 days you are to do your work, and on the 7th day you rest, in order that your ox and your donkey might rest, and the son of your female servant and the sojourner be refreshed. And in all that I have said to you, take heed, and make no mention of the name of other mighty ones. Let it not be heard from your mouth. 3 times in the year you are to celebrate a festival to me. Guard the festival of Matzah. 7 days you eat the unleavened bread as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the new month of Abib, for in it you came out of Mitzrayim. And do not appear before me empty-handed. And the festival of the harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the festival of the ingathering at the outgoing of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times in the year all your males are to appear before the master Yahuwah. Do not slaughter the blood of my slaughtering with leavened bread, and the fat of my festival shall not remain until morning. Bring the first of the first fruits of your land into the house of Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. See, I am sending a messenger before you to guard you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Be on guard before him and obey his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he is not going to pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. But if you diligently obey his voice and shall do all that I speak, then I shall be an enemy to your enemies and a distresser to those who distress you. For my messenger shall go before you and shall bring you in to the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I shall cut them off. Do not bow down to their mighty ones, nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but without fail overthrow them, and without fail break down their pillars. And you shall serve Yahuwah your Elohim, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I shall remove sickness from your midst. None shall miscarry or be barren in your land. I shall fill the number of your days. I shall send my fear before you, and cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I shall send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before you. I shall not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become a waste and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Little by little I shall drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. And I shall set your border from the Sea of Reeds to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness of the river, for I shall give the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them, nor with their mighty ones. Let them not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me when you serve their mighty ones, when it becomes a snare to you.
And that's pretty much the statutes.
There was something here that really interested me, and it and it made me think about the about Israel and the nations going into Jerusalem, and as they are beginning to spread out and they're beginning to move move into other lands. Well, let's see the section where it says not to have their names in in your mouth, and in all that I've said to you to take heed and make no mention of the name of other mighty ones, let it not be heard from your mouth. Well, what got me to thinking are archaeological digs. You know that they're going to be finding stuff that Yah has covered over. And I know that there's someplace else in scripture where it talks about oh boy, it just left my brain. Um well, anyway, uh, don't inquire about their idols. Don't inquire about what they did with them, because you know when they go through their archaeological things, they're going to come across this. And this law here is a reminder, don't do that. Um, don't be seeking after what used to be in
Mhm.
the old world.
What I was thinking about when we were reading that is so in verse 12, 6 days thou shalt do work, and on the seventh thou shalt rest. So we're talking about the Sabbath here. And then it says in verse 13, interesting, make no mention of the names of other gods. And I'm thinking about the days of the weeks and the months of the year being named after other gods. Like, don't let that influence how you keep my Sabbath. And then it goes into, you're going to keep my feasts in the year. And it talks about unleavened bread. It goes on to his description of the first month, which is Abib, the month of Abib, and going on into Sukkot and Shavuot. That's just what I was thinking of, but I can hear what you're saying too, Christina.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%, because what are we trying to do now using our calendar?
Well,
We're, we're now thinking in terms of today is the seventh day. We're
yeah.
already practicing not using the days of the week as much as we can, considering we're still in the world.
What I was thinking of was, some of the books that was hidden away, right? And kind of like the book of Enoch, where the fallen angels was mentioned by name. And that could be one reason why it was removed from the canon. You think about it, because we don't want to mention their names, not to even bring them to mind, not to even to think about them, because nothing compares to the Almighty. There is no comparison, and some of these fallen ones and their offspring, just like in Greece, they believe in all these gods, which really was the offspring of some of the fallen ones and of mankind, you know, and they really do believe that they exist, and they probably did. They teach them that in school, as that's actually, as facts. we believe it is myth and things like that. But I was thinking of, they go down in the first Enoch and they start naming off all the names of the fallen ones and what they did and what they taught and things like that. And it just kind of, you know, that's what I was thinking of.
I think it's okay. I think y'all saying don't use their name and reverence it, so to speak. I think it's okay to know their names the way Enoch was explaining. He made no bones about it that they were evil and wicked, and Yah punished them and will destroy them in due time. I don't think it means that. I think it just means don't speak their names in reverence or in awe or in, hey, let's see what they did. That's neat. Things like that. So, and I don't think they got rid of First Enoch and Jubilees to keep us from saying those names. I think it was far more nefarious than that. I
Yeah, I
think they were
agree.
hiding the truth of what happened. And those two books, without those two books, you can't even create y'all's calendar. So I think it was nefarious reasons what they were doing there. I hear what you're saying, but I think y'all is saying it's all in your understanding and use of those names.
And I think it's also like when it comes to my Yah saying, like when it comes to my feasts, any mention of these other, like they're not part of the equation. So like Saturday has nothing to do with me. So don't let it come out of your mouth when it comes to how you celebrate me and my feasts.
Right. Or Christmas or Easter, Ashtoreth, et cetera, et cetera. Those, he has no part in that junk. And yes, the days of the week, the days of the month, they're all now we're taught they're myths, right? They're mythological, but I agree with you, Heather. They are absolutely real.
Absolutely.
And they're trying to hide that
Yeah,
and to make us think they're harmless now,
right.
but absolutely they are not harmless. And Satan has twisted the world to speak of them constantly and to hold on to their times. You can see in the Torah, it's just a constant argument over the true calendar. And even once
Mm-hmm.
people understand the Zadok, they'll still force
Right,
it to Saturn Day, right? And Yah
right.
is not in that. He is not in that. So I hear what you're saying, but by
Mm-hmm.
the same token, I think Yah wants us to understand who they are and what they are, but not revere them and to hold them where they need to be.
Right. It's just, I don't, I fear, I fear our Father a lot, and I love him so much that I don't want to step, if he says, don't do this, don't, then I
Yeah.
want to do what he says. I don't want to take a chance and just, do you see what
Oh,
where I'm coming
absolutely. We
from?
don't
If
we
I
don't want to disappoint him in any way. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I would rather just be on the safe side and not, say, well, yeah, that fruit looks pretty good. Let's taste it. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting with the names of those angels found in the book of Enoch is that there's a particular female preacher out there calling out all of the names in front of a congregation, which I believe is ignorant of who those angels are.
Mm-hmm.
And and if I remember in one clip that I saw, she's saying, let's say it in the names of these
Mm-hmm.
72 angels, and uh,
And,
she was naming them all off.
yeah, and it'll draw their attention. When their name's mentioned, it draws their attention to you, you know. And that's the truth. I could tell you that, you know. Um, it's just I know for a fact, just knowing people before I was even chosen out by Yah, you know, and that is something, a road you just never want to go down.
Right. And I just think that, I'm really glad, and I'm glad that Rachel wrote this. Enoch was
Mhm.
righteous and in covenant and wrote the names. I'm glad that
Mhm.
the names were written so we can talk about them, to discuss the reasons and the why they were considered evil. Yes, know your enemy.
And
Know
it's
your
Mhm.
interesting, though, that most of them, of course, were named while they were still righteous, and they had Yah's name within them, like ending in
Yes.
El,
Mhm.
El. So it,
Yes.
it wasn't their name specifically that was wrong. I'm sure it meant a good thing, but
Hmm.
they themselves rebelled and became Yah's enemy.
Right.
So, yeah,
I
and
it's
mean,
it,
there's the God that in Babylon that was that's mentioned all through the canon that begins with a B. That even they still worship to this day. And I won't say his name. I'm sure y'all know who I'm talking about.
Well,
You
it's
know.
like okay, we are supposed to think, oh, yeah, they t tell us, like you were saying, these are mythological or whatever. But
Mhm.
when you think about the tribute they pay to all of our like historical like forefathers or like Martin Luther King Boulevard, like is that's a way to pay tribute.
Right.
Why are
Yeah,
we naming all these NASA shuttles after like of
that's true.
course they're paying
Hmm.
tribute to these names, and we do not want to be ignorant to who they are, because if you know the truth, if you read your
Right.
Bible, you're going to know who's worshiping who.
well, and
Hmm.
not only that, when you think about it, it's the fallen angels who had come down and bred with the women, and their children are the little deities, right?
That's
That's where
yeah.
all the
That's what
myths
I was
came from.
saying. Yeah. Yes, that's what I was getting at. Just like like they're over there in Greece, and places like that that has Zeus, I guess, and all of Thor and all the uh other little G gods. Yeah.
yeah, everywhere. The solar system's name for them, the days of the month, the days of the week, it's just
Yeah.
how
And
people can't figure out that that's not how y'all rolls. I mean, I don't say that condescendingly because I spent 40
right.
years of my life doing that junk too, clueless.
And I had no idea, even about, New Year's, that deity. I had no idea until you dig in and just are blown away, and the Krampus and all this other stuff that goes so far back, and they try to make it look so appealing, and it is to children. That's where it's aimed at mainly now. I
Yeah, oh
just
yeah.
it's really, I feel sorry for our children now. We've really got to keep an eye on them.
Pretty much we've come to the conclusion on the Gregorian calendar, all the days, celebration days on there, every one of them go back to some sort of
Absolutely.
reverence to these mythological gods or fallen angels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's right.
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And Pride Month this month. I mean, every month is
I
perverted to
know.
something. It's just, wouldn't you know, y'all would pick this month because he knows it's Shavuot to be Pride Month. But
And what really stinks about it is that it's supposed to go on for 4 days.
What?
Yeah, June 1st through the 4th.
And we know that the
Thought it
covenant,
was Juneteenth. I thought that
No,
was.
that's something else.
yeah. But the covenant with Noah, they gave them the sign of the rainbow too. That is,
yeah, yeah, don't tell me
Yes.
Satan don't know the true Shavuot.
Isn't
Yeah,
Great
that
point, Rachel.
blasphemous?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
You know, the most beautiful sign. I
Has
don't
been
know.
perverted. Yep. And it
Not
is
judging, but
interesting.
yeah.
He's shoving it in y'all's face on his Shavuot.
My
So
goodness.
right there, folks that keep the Hillel 2 calendar, the Judaism calendar, that is not the right Shavuot. Wake up. Wake
Right,
up.
and it's the same with the people who are using the other Zadok calendar because their Shavuot comes 4 or 5 days after ours.
Yep.
They're not
Either
they're
way you move it, it's not right. Yeah,
right, and you notice that their Shavuot is not being defaced.
of course. So, all right, we just have a couple minutes left, and I just wanted to read to the point to kind of prove that all we've discussed that Yahusha gave on Mount Sinai today, the Shabbat prior to Pentecost or Shavuot. So if we keep going, start in chapter Exodus 24, it says, Now he, Yahusha, said to Moses, Come up to Yah, you, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship from afar. And Moses alone shall come near Yah, but they shall not come near, nor shall the people go up with him. So Moses came and told the people all the words of Yahusha and all the judgments, what we just read. And all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words which Yahusha has said, we will do. And Moses wrote all the words of Yahusha, and he rose early in the morning and built an altar. So, right there, that statement in 24, verse 4, and he rose early in the morning. Now we're transitioning from Shabbat to Pentecost morning or Shavuot morning. So, I wanted to bring you guys to that point, and then we'll finish up probably on Shavuot with what exactly happened on that day.
We have 9 more minutes, Mitzi.
Okay, what do you want to talk about?
Well, should we finish
Okay,
the rest of this chapter if we can, or finish as much as we can?
sure. Just trying to make it a suspense thriller.
Sorry, I know I don't want a cliffhanger. I'm like, I want to keep
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay.
going.
Okay. So he rose early in the morning. Now we're on Shavuot, right? The eighth day, the 50th Omer, the first day of the next week. Okay. And built an altar at the foot of the mountain and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. So verse 5, this is informative. He sent young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen to Yah. Okay, so there were people from all the tribes of Israel, young men who did this. So there's no um, dividing out the Levites at this point. And they were doing sacrifices, but not commanded sacrifices, but burnt offerings, free will burnt offerings, and peace offerings. So, and Moses right here, so Hebrews points back to this that no, um, the shedding of blood, even this covenant was not given without the shedding of blood, right? So when Moses took half the blood from these goats and put it in basins, and half the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant, right, which he wrote out the evening before. He wrote out all the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments, the statutes, and the judgments, which we just read. He took the book of the covenant and read in the hearing of the people, so they got to hear it all over again. And they said, All that Yah has said we will do, and be obedient. So then Moses took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, "This is the blood of the covenant which Yah has made with you according to all these words." And then once he completed that, then Moses went up, also Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the Elohim of Israel. So again, verse 10 proves the Elohim of Israel was Yahusha. And remember what we said in John 5, I think it was verse 37, no one has seen or heard the Father at any time. So they saw him. And there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and it was like the very heavens in its clarity. So my view on this is the traveling throne, which literally has a firmament above it, had come down on Mount Sinai, and he allowed those 70 elders, Moses, Aaron, and Aaron's two sons there to see him. He revealed himself to them there. But on the nobles, verse 11, but on the nobles of the children of Israel, he did not lay his hand. So they saw Elohim and they ate and drank. So that's kind of like the marriage supper right there.
Can we stop right here?
Sure.
I just to talk, like if we have more time, but I do think we might run out because it's 1:56. But
Yeah.
I just am sharing right now the name of a book. It's called Back to the Melchizedek Future by David Perry is the author. Highly recommend it. He unfortunately has a different understanding of a lot of things, but there is a lot of very good information and scriptural references about the difference between the law that was added and what we are celebrating today that ends here at this verse. Mitzi just read up until verse 11. So we know he rejects Jubilees and Enoch, the author of this book that I just mentioned. But the very first chapter, very first verse in the book of Jubilees tells us when the 16th begins, and it is after it's verse 12. So Jubilees 1 is equivalent to Exodus 24:12. So what the other thing that this gentleman does not understand who wrote this book is the dates that Mitzi just laid out for us very clearly using scripture. And if you have your calendar in front of you, if anybody has any additions, I would like to suggest writing the in your calendar um, on the 11th day of the third month is Exodus 19:1 and 2. And then the 12th of month 3 is Exodus 19:3 through 8. And then the 13th is Exodus 19:10, which is, it says tomorrow. And then, so that would mean the 13th. And then, I'm sorry, going back to Exodus 19:10, you can also put on the 12th because that says today. So the 10th, Exodus 19:10 references 3:12 and 3:13 because it has today and tomorrow. And then on the 14th, it's Exodus 19:16. And then in the verses 11 and 15, it talks about the third day being the 14th. If I'm going too fast or if anybody wants me to repeat this, I'm happy to. And then right here for tomorrow, 3:15 is Exodus 24:4 through 11. And that is Shavuot. And then Exodus 24:12 goes on 3:16 and beyond. That's the day after. So in the book, he clearly goes over there are five key points that talk about a covenant, this book specifically. So the book of the covenant, there, in order to get into a covenant, you need to have a proposal. And so starting in chapter 19 of Exodus, the people start saying, everything you say, Moses, we will do. They say that three times. And so they accepted the book of the covenant and all the terms that went along with it. And he reads it to them to be like, are we all clear? We're all on the same page. And they're like, we got it. We're going to do it. We promise. And then there is a blood ratification, which happens in verse 8. And then in what Mitzi said, the last thing that she said, they did eat and drink. That is a covenant confirming meal that they all did as well. So like if you think about a marriage, there's always like a reception that follows to confirm the covenant. Um, and so that's that. I mean that, but there's just so much information and so many verses that clearly lays out all the dates that Mitzi just went over. And it's just so beautiful. And I'm so grateful to have the Book of Jubilees so we know where the 15th ends and when the 16th begins.
Yeah. And then I don't think you said it, Linda, but Exodus 20, 21, 22, and 23 are all on Shabbat there
Yes. So really like this 1916
through
through 3
24
or
verse
3.
4. Yeah, 3, yes. So Kimberly wants you to write that out and post it in band.
You got it, Kimberly.
And then Rachel wants to know, briefly go over the pieces of Shavuot and what we are to do. So, well, the first step is understanding this and be aware of what the covenant is. And baptism, the way I understand it, is, uh, you know, that your confirmation to Yah that you accept the covenant and you promise to, you're circumcised of heart, right? You are bound by this covenant.
And um, what I do, um, what I do on Shavuot, you are allowed to cook on Shavuot. This is not like a Sabbath like today, but you're not allowed to work, but you can cook on that day. And what I like to do, which is a tradition, is to bake 2 loaves of bread. I will have lamb or beef with my dinner, and I give away one of my loaves of bread. Um, but that's what I do because that's about all I know what to do, considering that I celebrate it by myself. So I don't know what other traditions others do, but that's what I do. And I wave two um these these loaves of bread are made with leaven. They're not
Yes,
flat bread, it's made with leaven.
with leaven. Back to Leviticus 23 on that.
Yep.
Just a holy convocation. And Ray will be hosting. We did not set a time, right? I don't think we did set a time.
Not yet.
Okay.
No.
I'm thinking that it'll probably be around 4 o'clock Eastern Standard, but don't we'll we'll hear that shortly from Ray. Um, so just gathering for sure is one of the things you should do.
Yeah, and this is Leviticus 23:17 real fast. It says, So count 50 days to the day after the seventh Shabbat. Then you shall offer a new grain offering to Yah. You shall bring from your dwellings, I started in verse 16, sorry. You shall bring from your dwellings 2 loaves of 2 tenths of an ephah. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baked with leaven. They are the first fruits to Yah. And you shall offer one with the bread, 7 lambs of the first year without blemish, 1 young bull, 2 rams, and they shall be as a burnt offering to Yah, with their grain offerings and their drink offerings, an offering made by fire, for a sweet aroma to Yah. And then it goes on. And in verse 20, the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits as a wave offering before Yah with the 2 lambs, and they shall be holy to Yah for the priest. And then, of course, on the same day, a holy convocation to you. You shall do no customary work on it. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. So again, that was Leviticus 23, verses 15 to 21, is all about Shavuot or Pentecost.